record it anyway. Yeah, so if you bear with me, and I haven't got any handouts, unfortunately, because I hadn't finished preparing this. So, but it will be okay, hopefully. Firstly, okay, um, I want to dedicate today's talk. Today is the 18th of November, and the 18th of November was my late father's birthday. It would have been his 100th birthday today had he lived beyond the tender age of 62. Um, yeah, okay, I'll ask him to dedicate it. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is something I was looking into a few weeks ago when we did the Seder of Bereshit. We began the Torah and we learned about the Garden of Eden and how when Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden at the end of the first Shabbat of creation, Adam created fire. They rubbed two stones or sticks together to create fire, and that is one of the reasons why we light a candle at the end of Shabbat to commemorate that. So I looked into the laws of Havdalah and the practices and customs of Havdalah. I thought I'll share with you some of these explanations and comments about Havdalah. So Havdalah means separation or division. We do Havdalah to mark a division between Shabbat, the holy day, and the weekday. So it marks the division of the day. We also make Havdalah at the end of Yom Tov, also to mark the division between the Yom Tov day and the weekday. Someone's talking there, or someone's machine is. Competition. Okay, so we do Havdalah in two places. Firstly, we make Havdalah. Firstly, we make Havdalah in the Amida in Mariv, in the Atachone Bracha. We say the bracha there for Havdalah, and then we also make Havdalah at home in shul at the end of the service, and then at home we make Havdalah over the wine, candle, and spices. Now, Havdalah is a very important separation between the holy day and the weekday, and we are not allowed, in fact, to do any malacha, any work, or to eat after Shabbat until we've said Havdalah. So, it's important to make Havdalah as soon as possible after Shabbat goes out for that reason. But if we do have to do some work or something, some act which is forbidden on Shabbat, after Shabbat, before we make Havdalah, we say the words Baruch HaMavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. So we make a mini Havdalah separation. And interesting to note that, in fact, if we're at shul and our wives, partners, whatever it is, are at home, or children are at home, and they haven't heard Havdalah yet, they have to say those words before they can switch lights on or off or turn their phones on or whatever. They can't just rely on us coming home from shul half an hour later and make Havdalah. They have to do those words themselves if they want to do any kind of malacha. And also note that if you were coming home to make Havdalah, and your wife was going to light the candle for you for the Havdalah, she can't light that candle until she's said those words, or she's daven mariv, which women tend not to do. So so that's important to know those things. Now, before we get on to some of the customs and what have you, Havdalah, there's a few Bobbermeisters, old wives' tales about Havdalah. So I just want to talk about them and see what you think of them. Firstly, there's a Bobbermeister that if a woman drinks some of the Havdalah wine, she'll grow a moustache or grow a beard. That is a Bobbermeister. There's no proof, okay, that actually happens, unless she has a red line on her face there from the wine. Now, what is the reason why this Bobbermeister came about? Because some people say that the Eit Hadat, the tree of knowledge, which Adam or Eve gave Adam to eat from, the serpent gave Eve and Eve gave Adam in the creation story, some say that it wasn't an apple, it was actually a grape. So the woman's sin of eating the fruit of the grape caused the expulsion from Eden, from Gan Eden, and therefore caused the necessity to make Havdalah, because if there hadn't been the expulsion from the Garden of Eden, Adam would have had to create the light, we wouldn't be making Havdalah. So It's the woman's sin which caused us to make Havdalah, and therefore she shouldn't drink this wine because she was involved in, or her ancestress was involved in this sin of Havdalah, of the tree, eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Another reason is that when a man makes Havdalah, or someone makes Havdalah, they've got to drink the majority of the cup. They're supposed to drink a large quantity of wine, not just a sip, a large quantity of wine, in order they can make the bracha acharona, the blessing after the wine. You have to make a bracha acharona, and you have to have drunk a proper quantity in order to do that. So if he shares the wine with other people, then he won't himself drink a large quantity of wine. So by giving the woman to drink, he's lowering the amount he can drink himself. So therefore, that's why another reason why women don't drink from the Havdalah wine. Another reason is that in Europe, in Eastern Europe, when they made Havdalah, wine was very difficult to come by. There's no grapes growing in Europe, therefore in Eastern Europe, therefore they didn't have wine or a lot of wine, and therefore they used to make Havdalah on beer. Okay, and we do know that some people say drinking beer helps hair growth. They talk about, boys drink beer or something that puts hair on their chest kind of thing. So basically, drinking beer is associated with hair growth, and therefore it's another reason possibly why this custom arose that women shouldn't drink the wine, because they drink the beer, they'll grow hair in the wrong places, etc. Anyway, that's the first Bubba Meiser. The second Bubba Meiser is that the Havdalah candle should be held high. So if a girl holds the Havdalah nice and high, she's going to get a tall husband. There's no evidence that this happens. Plenty of little men have married lovely women, so it's not necessary. It doesn't go. Okay. And the other Bubba Meiser is that a woman shouldn't make Havdalah for herself. And there used to be a practice that some women on their own would, make a phone call. Some would phone them up and say Havdalah over the phone to them because they shouldn't make them. There's no reason why a woman can't make Havdalah on their own. It's not only a Bubba Meiser, they shouldn't make it on their own.
Yeah, and the
what's that?
The lady says Baruch Haba.
Yeah, that's Havdalah. That's Havdalah. But I'm talking about over the wine, the whole ceremony. And the final thing is that some people have a custom. They put the finger in the spilt wine and they put it in their pockets, and it gives them a good paranos of the week. Again, there's no proof that it works. You try it and see if you have a better week, a better paranos of that week. Anyway, so there are four brachot, there are four blessings in Havdalah. We have wine, the samim, the spices, ner, which is the candle, and the Havdalah blessing. And there's a mnemonic for that, yavner. Yud is yain, beit is the besamim, nun is the ner, and the hay at the end is the Havdalah. Okay. You should note that we only do besamim and ner, the spices and the candle, if Havdalah is made on Saturday night. If for some reason you're going to make Havdalah later, because you can make it on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, if you have to, there's no candle and no spices, only the wine. Candles and spices are only for Saturday night. The wine we use for Havdalah should be pure wine. It shouldn't be pugum. In other words, someone shouldn't have drunk from that glass beforehand. It should be a cup which is a new wine which hasn't been drunk from before. And usually we precede Havdalah with verses of praise at home. We say these blessings beforehand, before we say the bracha on the actual wine itself. It's a good custom for the wine to be overflowing. My cup runneth over in Psalm 23. So the cup should be overflowing. And it shows basically that it's a siman baracha. It's a sign of blessing. It shows that in fact that we're rich enough to be able to afford to spill wine. It's not so scarce for us. It's also it's supposed to be muzzledick if the wine glass spills, actually. It's supposed to be a good luck if the wine. So when when your grandchild spills wine at the Seder table, don't tell them off. It's good luck when wine spills.
Another of those Bubba Meisers you were just talking about.
Yeah, maybe it is a Bubba Meiser. Yeah. Especially when the Bubba spills the wine. Okay. And we put out the candle usually in the spilled wine. We don't actually blow it out. Or we put it out in the wine. Why is that?
Why don't you blow it out?
Because it's not good luck.
I don't know the answer.
No, I think it's supposed to be bad luck to blow a candle out. Again, because the candle is the soul, and the shama, and you're blowing the soul out or something. Possibly, I don't know.
Still putting it out. I'm putting it out.
True, we're not blowing
it out.
We're not blowing it out though.
And
I don't know.
okay.
It can work for you, Rabbi Jeffrey. You can.
Got nothing better to do.
Right.
Why doesn't Atacona Tunnel count as $1?
What's that?
It does.
Saying you've got to make $1.
It does, but you still have to.
Atacona Tunnel count as that.
It does, because you're saying the $1 words in that
If you say Atacona Tunnel in my room, you've done you know.
Yeah, we still have to do this. We still have to do this ceremony of the $1 at home as well.
So if you say Atacona in my, you could eat.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, once you've done that, yes, true. But if you haven't, yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, there could be an example. For example, to say you lived up in Scotland where Shabbos in the summertime goes out at 11:30 at night, and you're feeling a bit tired, and you go to bed at 10 o'clock, and you fall asleep, and you wake up the following morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. You haven't done Ma'ariv, you haven't made Havdalah. Well, you can't do any Malacha yet until you do Havdalah. Or and what comes first, the Havdalah or the Ma'ariv, which you missed the night before? So the chicken or the egg, yeah. Okay. One is supposed to sit when drinking the wine at Havdalah. And some sit for the whole Havdalah ceremony, okay? They don't stand. Although if you do stand to drink, it's not so terrible, as a famous rabbi would have said. Because it's like a meal, I suppose. It's like in Kiddush, some people sit when they drink the Kiddush wine as well. It's a bit more respectful to sit down. Sephardim do, they sit down and make a big thing of it. Now, as I said before, the man making Havdalah should drink the majority of the cup in order that he can say the Bracha Acharona, but at least he should have a Malon Melukma, which is a cheekful to be Yotzi Havdalah. So coming on to the next thing is that one doesn't have to only use wine for Havdalah. You can use beer or other alcoholic beverages for Havdalah, but you can't use water. It's best to use wine. If you haven't got wine, the next best is to use grape juice. After that, the next best thing is beer or whiskey or another alcoholic drink. Yeah. But you have to drink a Malone Lugmov. You have to have a cheekful of this drink. So if you're using whiskey for Havdalah, unless you are a good drinker of whiskey, as some of our friends are, no names mentioned, you have to be able to drink a full cheekful of the whiskey. You can't just have a little tot. It's got to be a proper.
Medina. Coca-Cola in America is.
Well, it's true, but they say it's the whiskey is acceptable, but Coca-Cola actually is not. Because
people use milk as well.
Yeah, you can do. Water or fizzy drinks or fruit juice are not acceptable, but flavored milk, for example, chocolate milk, is okay. Some rabbis are lenient concerning fruit juice, but some are not, and there are different opinions concerning milk. I suppose in countries where milk is drunk as a drink, then maybe it'll be okay, but where milk is just used as an additive to tea or coffee, then it's not a drink in its own right. Some have a custom that after Pesach, when we haven't had any chametz all week, that the first Havdalah they make after Pesach is made over beer or some other chametz drink in order to show that it's a drink which is quite preferable to us because we haven't had it for 8 days, rather than using wine. Now, interesting thing, in the Gemara, if you look at Gemara, in the Gemara Shavuot of her oaths on page 8b, 8 Amud base, it says that if you make Havdalah over wine, you will have Banim Zacharim, which means you will have male sons. Now, that expression is a bit superfluous, male sons. And what do some rabbis say? Take this as it comes. Some rabbis say that the reason for this is you'll have masculine boys. You won't have faglers. You won't have sort of... Now, this explanation is a bit homophobic and is not politically correct nowadays, but that is what it says in the Gemara anyway, okay? Now, there's a story told of a man in America who had only girls, he had no sons, and he went to a rabbi for advice, and the rabbi asked him, what do you make your Havdalah on? And he said he makes it on grape juice. And the rabbi said, use wine in future. And lo and behold, the man used wine in future, and lo and behold, he had a baby boy. So whether it's just a coincidence or what, take it as you want. When we make Havdalah, we hold the wine in our right hand and we make Havdalah. And when we say the bracha on the spices, there's two different opinions. One is that we put the wine down and pick up the spices in our right hand. Another opinion is we transfer the wine from our right hand to our left hand and have the spices on our right hand. So we have two together. Both work. If you're left-handed, you still have to put it in the right hand. And then someone else should hold the candle. So you don't hold the candle as well. You have two hands with a something and wine and a candle in your teeth. You can't do it. So someone else holds the candle up for you, and usually a girl, and she has a tall husband. We only say Havdalah once. So if you go to shul for Mariv and you hear Havdalah being said in shul and you're Yotze from the Havdalah, in other words, you participate in the Havdalah and smell the spices and do the business with your hands, and Yotze, you do not make Havdalah again at home. You don't have to, no need to. However, if there's someone at home who hasn't heard Havdalah and they can't make it for themselves, then you are able to make it for them. So your wife at home could make Havdalah herself, but if she feels uncomfortable doing that, you can make Havdalah for your wife at home. If you have a teenage son at home who hasn't been to shul, he should make Havdalah for the wife at home rather than you making it a second time after hearing it in shul. Alternatively, when you go to shul and see Havdalah being said, you turn away and don't concentrate on it, so you're not Yotze and you can make it at home. We only make the bracha on basamim, on spices, after Shabbat. We don't make it after Yom Tov goes out on a weekday Yom Tov. We make it on, if it's Shabbat Yom Tov, we do. What is the reason for this? Basamim have there's two reasons for basamim. One is for the neshama yetera, the extra soul, which we have only on Shabbat. We don't have the extra soul on Yom Tov. And we have basamim to sweeten the departure of that neshama yetera after Shabbat. And the other reason is that Jewish tradition is that when someone passes away, they are judged for 12 months after they pass away, and that is the reason why the son says Kaddish for up to 12 months. In fact, they stop at 11 months. A child says Kaddish for the parent, for 11 months after the person passed away. And the idea is, or the understanding is, that during their 12 months, the deceased goes to somewhere called Gehinnom, which I won't translate, but they are judged for their sins or their wrongdoings during those months. Gehinnom is closed on Shabbat. They get a reprieve and go back to Gan Eden on Shabbat, and after Shabbat they go back to Gehinnom again for more of their judgment. So to ease the soul going back to Gehinnom, we'd have basamim to take away the smell of the fire in Gehinnom or whatever. So that's why that's the second reason basamim. Both those reasons have to be in place to make basamim bracha on Havdalah. So after Shabbat, we have the return to Gehinnom and we have the neshama yetera going. After a midweek Yom Tov, there is no neshama yetera. You don't say the blessing on the spices. And after between Yom Tov and Shabbat and Yom Tov, when Shabbat is first day Yom Tov, we say a special Havdalah in Kiddush on Saturday night. There's no spices because there's no Gehinnom on Yom Tov as well, so the soul's not going back. So therefore, we don't need to say the bracha on spices. One sort of anomaly to all this is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, we don't say the bracha on basamim after Yom Kippur. Because on Yom Kippur there's no neshama yetera. We don't have an extra soul because we're not eating. We don't have that. And even if Yom Kippur falls on a Shabbat, there's no neshama yetera. So some rabbis originally said that when Shabbat and Yom Kippur coincide, we don't do the bracha on basamim after Yom Kippur. However, current day practice is to say the bracha on basamim. If you look in the Siddur, it says we do, but the original commentator says we don't. Okay, what do we make basamim on? What bracha do we say on basamim? Bracha on basamim is the spices, okay? It can be ground spices. It could be things like cloves or myrtle leaves or what have you, or it could actually be a fruit, sweet-smelling fruit. It could be bits of a bush, a rosemary bush or something. Or it could be mint. It could be... Each of these types of spices have a different blessing. If you look in the Siddur, each one has a different blessing. If you're Sephardi, you'll say the appropriate blessing for the type of spice it is. If you're Ashkenazi, we only say Borei Minei Masamim. Why? Because the rabbis say that we Ashkenazim are not so clever. We can't really differentiate between the different spices. Therefore, we say one bracha. But if you're Ashkenazi, if you go to an Ashkenazi Havdalah, they'll say Borei Ispei Masamim or Atzei Asavim or Sephardim, yeah. They seem to be on a different planet to us, or maybe not a different planet, a different level to us anyway. The candle we use is not a candle. It should be a torch. Borei Orei Ha'esh creates the lights of the fire. Therefore, we have a special candle with more than one wick, or you can hold two candles together. You could even hold two matches together if you have to, in order to have a candle with more than one wick. As I said, we only say the bracha on spices and candles on Saturday night. If you make Havdalah on a Sunday or afterwards, you don't do the other two brachot. If you can't find a besamim or candle on Saturday night, you still make Havdalah without them. You just make it, and if you find it later, you can say the bracha of those things by themselves. Besamim, we shouldn't really take a box of spices from our larder, our food cupboard, and make a bracha on those spices and then use those spices to make a cake with. We should ideally have spices in a separate container. We have a special besamim box. We shouldn't have a smelly besamim box. You shouldn't have a box of besamim which is like a wooden box which has its own fragrance, because we want to smell the spices, not the wood of the box. Yeah, if you can't smell, you can't say the bracha on besamim. If you lost your sense of smell or you've got a clogged up nose, you can't really say the bracha on besamim. Someone else should say it for you. Okay. And likewise, if you can't see, if you're blind and you can't see, you shouldn't say the bracha on the candle because you can't see it. Because when we light the candle, we hold our hands up like this. We fold our fingers up when we have a look at our nails. And obviously, if you can't see that. The reason we do that is that the light of the candle should be light enough that you should differentiate between different coins. So it has to be quite clear light. So if we look at our fingernails and to see if we can see our fingernails, we're making use of the light of the candle. Okay. The other thing is on Saturday night we create a new fire for the Havdalah. We don't use an existing flame. We can't, for example, there's a yahrzeit candle, a light from the day before, we can't just use that. It has to be a new fire because it's a creation of light, which we're celebrating with Havdalah. After Yom Kippur, though, we use an existing flame because there's no light wasn't created after Yom Kippur. We use an existing flame to show that we have been deprived of using a light on Yom Kippur. We can't use a fire on Yom Kippur, and it's a different reason for the
Yom Kippur is on Shabbat.
Yom Kippur on Shabbat. Then it's yes, we can use. You're quite right. We can use a flame, but we tend to use the existing flame anyway because it's there anyway. Another thing to know, by the way, an interesting fact, is that the only reference to Zemirot, saying table hymns, as they call it in English, hymns at the table, in the codes, is for Motzei Shabbat, for Havdalah. The custom of doing Zemirot on Shabbat meals has no origin whatsoever in the sources. Only for Havdalah it says you should say Zemirot. That's why we say Hinei Keli Shorte before, and we sing Eliyahu and Navi or other things afterwards. Only for Havdalah. So that's the time you should be saying Zemirot. Okay, that's just a ramble on the laws of Havdalah. I didn't give any handouts. There's only a few notes I put together, so on the quick, because Rabbi Klein wasn't here. So we can see basically that every mitzvah we do, we have meticulous rules and reasons for everything that we do. Everything has a reason for every custom. So may we merit to perform all these mitzvot and many more in good health for many more years to come. Amen. So I'll do a Rabbanon Kar. I'll say goodbye to those on Zoom, if I can. Rabbi Chanani Mekasha Omer Rasakash Zakor